Reddit woman, how did you realize that your family was falling apart? It happened on a Thursday. Just a regular, bland after-work Thursday. I was cooking dinner, the TV was on in the background, and my daughter, 14, moody, brilliant, always half-glued to her phone, was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. I asked her to pass me the salt. She didn't look up. Just muttered, "Here, Rachel." I froze. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice light. She shrugged. "What? You said you hate being called Mom when you're mad, so." I had said that once. A joke. But I didn't mean it. I didn't think it had landed. I stood there for a second holding the salt, feeling like the floor shifted. Because that moment, small, offhand, casual, hit me harder than any screaming match we'd ever had. She called me Rachel. Not Mom. Not Mama. Just a person. A roommate. A stranger she happened to live with. That's when it hit me. Our family had stopped feeling like a family a long time ago. My husband and I barely spoke. We moved around each other like co-workers in a shared office, civil, functional, cold. Dinner was quiet. Everyone ate in different rooms. Weekend plans? Separate. Phones and screens filled the silence where love used to live. We hadn't taken a family trip in years. No game nights. No random hugs. No traditions that stuck. I couldn't remember the last time any of us laughed together. We weren't a family anymore. We were housemates with the same last name. That night, I didn't say anything. I just finished dinner, went to bed early, and cried under the covers. The next morning, I started looking through old photos. Birthdays. Beach days. Lazy Sundays in pajamas. We used to be close. I used to be her person. So I made a change. I started small, no phones at dinner. At first, there was pushback. Groans. Eye rolls. But I insisted. Then I started asking questions, not the robotic, "How was school?" but real ones. "What made you laugh today? What's something you wish I understood better?" I talked to my husband. For real. We argued. A lot. But at least we were talking. We started family therapy 3 weeks later. It's been 7 months. We still have bad days. But now? We also have pancakes on Sunday. Movie nights. Occasional inside jokes. She calls me Mom again. Not always, but when she does, it's with warmth I didn't realize I missed until it came back. I'm not perfect. I lost touch. I let the distance settle in because I was tired, overworked, numb. But that moment, when she said Rachel, woke me up. I'm not letting my family fall apart quietly anymore. I'm fighting for it. Even when it's messy. Even when I don't feel like I'm winning. I missed one school play and found out my husband had never been to any. It started with a flu. Nothing dramatic. Just the kind of fever and body ache that knocks you out for 48 hours. Our daughter Ellie had her 4th grade school play that night. She was playing a squirrel in the Woodland Winterfest. She had 2 lines and one very itchy tail sewn into her costume. I felt terrible about missing it. I never missed anything. I was the one who packed the snacks, made the signs, clapped the loudest. But this time I had chills and a fever, and my husband promised he'd go in my place. "She'll be fine," he said. "I'll get a video." So I stayed in bed, half asleep and full of guilt, waiting for him to come home with the camera roll. When he walked in, he handed me a juice and said, "Play went fine." She was cute. That was it. I asked, "Did you get pictures?" He looked up from his phone. "Oh no, I forgot." But someone's mom was recording. He couldn't even remember whose. Later that night, I asked Ellie how it went. She gave a small smile, but there was something dim behind it. "Did Daddy take any pictures?" she asked. "No, honey, but he said you did great." She looked down at her socks and said, "He was on his phone the whole time." I didn't know what to say. The next day, while I was still homesick, I started looking through the school's Facebook page for photos. And I found some. There was Ellie on stage. Her little tail crooked. Her arms out like wings. Her mouth open midline. In the front row, I could see familiar parents. The usual crew. And then I saw something that made my stomach turn. An older post from 2 months ago. "Thank you to all the parents who showed up for back-to-school night. I wasn't in it. I had a late shift that night. But I didn't worry, my husband said he'd gone. Except, he wasn't in the photos either. So I kept scrolling. Science fair. Field day. Fall carnival. He was in none of them. Every time I couldn't make it, I'd asked him to step in. And every time he said he had. But he hadn't. I asked him about it later. He said, "What's the big deal? They're just kid events." Just kid events. Just her events. Just our daughter, waiting for someone to clap, to show up, to see her. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just started showing up twice as much. I got a new job with better hours. Started checking his calendar and stopped relying on his promises. Our marriage didn't end immediately. But that was the beginning of the unraveling. Because you don't lose a family in a single blow. You lose it in the empty chairs. The missed games. The promises made and quietly broken. It was spaghetti night. Nothing special, jar sauce, frozen garlic bread, the usual. My husband sat across from me, elbows on the table, eyes glazed over as he scrolled on his phone between bites. Our son, 12, had headphones around his neck and barely looked up. My daughter, 9, picked at her pasta like it was a science experiment. No one was talking. I asked how school was. Fine, my son mumbled. How about you, sweetie? I said to my daughter. She shrugged. It was boring. Then silence again. Forks clinked. The microwave beeped for no reason. Someone's phone buzzed. I sat there chewing and suddenly felt hollow. Like I'd been pulled into someone else's life without realizing it. I looked around the table at the family I'd built and realized something horrible. We were strangers. We lived in the same house, wore the same last name, shared the same Netflix account, but the energy, the connection, the joy, it was gone. And the worst part? I couldn't remember when it left. When did dinner go from laughing at spilled milk to complete silence? When did our living room become 4 separate screens and closed bedroom doors? When did we stop hugging each other just because? Later that night, after the kids went to bed, I asked my husband, "Do you think we're happy?" He didn't even look up. Just said, "We're fine." But we weren't. We were functioning. Existing. Getting through the day. But fine doesn't mean whole. And surviving isn't the same as living. So I made a decision. The next night, I took all the electronics. Put them in a basket on the counter. No phones. No tablets. No TV. When dinner hit the table, the silence hit harder. Everyone looked confused, like I'd cancel Christmas. But I forced it. I asked questions. Pushed through the shrugs. Told a dumb story about my coworker that made my daughter laugh, really laugh, for the first time in weeks. It was a crack in the wall. So I kept pushing. We brought back board games. Movie nights. No phone Sundays. It wasn't perfect. My husband resisted. My son still rolled his eyes. But slowly things changed. One night, my daughter looked up during dinner and said, "Remember when Dad dropped the turkey last Thanksgiving? And we all lost it." That's when I knew we were waking up. Families don't always break with shouting and slam doors. Sometimes they just fall asleep at the wheel. Drifting. Dimming. I didn't want us to go dark. So I flipped the switch. One awkward, stubborn, hopeful night at a time. I found my son's diary. And I wasn't the hero in his story. I wasn't snooping. I was cleaning. His room was a disaster, like most 13-year-old boys' rooms. Crumpled socks, snack wrappers, homework under the bed. I was on my hands and knees trying to retrieve a water glass when I spotted it, tucked between the wall and his nightstand. A spiral notebook. Worn edges. The cover just said stuff. I didn't plan to read it. I swear. But when I picked it up, a page flipped open. And on it, in big angry letters, "I hate this house." My chest tightened. I sat on his bed and read the rest of the page. Then the next. And the next. Each one was a punch to the gut. Mom doesn't care about anything except cleaning and work. Dad never listens to me. They always yell at each other when they think I'm asleep. I feel like I'm just background noise. I couldn't breathe. He wrote about how lonely he felt. How fake our smiles seemed. How he didn't like coming home anymore. And then one line that broke me completely. "I don't think my parents like me. They just deal with me." I read those words and cried like I hadn't cried in years. Because deep down I knew. We hadn't been okay for a long time. My husband and I had drifted. We went through the motions. Talked logistics, not life. We were two exhausted adults trying to keep the machine running while the whole system fell apart. And our son? Our sweet, funny, smart boy? He got lost in the noise. I didn't tell him I read it. Not right away. I just watched him more closely. I noticed how he flinched when my husband and I raised our voices. How quickly he'd retreat to his room. How often he apologized for things he didn't need to. One night, I knocked on his door. He was gaming, headphones on, usual blank stare. I sat on his bed and said, "Hey, you know you can tell me anything, right?" He shrugged. Sure. I said, no, I mean really. I won't get mad. I just want to understand. That opened the door, just a crack. Enough to start a real conversation. The next day I told my husband. We cried together. Booked a family therapy session. Started showing up differently. More listening. More patience. More hugs. Fewer in a minute, and more right now, We're still working on it. But last week, I found another notebook, this one open on his desk. On the cover, he'd scribbled a new title. Things I like about my life. The first bullet? My mom really sees me now. That's how I knew we were healing. Sometimes you don't realize your family is falling apart until your child puts it in writing. And if you're lucky, you get a second draft. I caught my husband lying to our kids about me. It was a Saturday morning and I had gone to the store early to grab pancake mix. I wanted to surprise the kids. I was only gone 25 minutes. When I came back, I didn't walk through the front door, I came in through the garage because I'd forgotten my phone charger in the car. That's how I heard it. My husband was in the kitchen with our kids ages 10 and 7. I heard plates clinking, a cereal box rustling, and then his voice. She's just always like that, you know? Mad for no reason. That's just your mom. I froze. My daughter asked, is she mad at us? He chuckled and said, no, sweetie. She's just tired of being around people, I guess. Then softer. Sometimes I think she regrets having a family. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just what he said. It was the way he said it, so casual. So comfortable saying it to them. As if planting seeds of blame and resentment between mother and children was normal. I stood there out of sight, holding a grocery bag full of pancake mix and syrup like a ghost in my own house. I didn't storm in. I didn't confront him. I quietly backed out, sat in the car, and cried. Because I realized in that moment, he didn't just stop loving me. He started rewriting me. In their eyes. 4 months I'd felt the shift. The eye rolls. The sighs when I reminded them to clean up. The way they'd run to him when I asked them to do chores as if I were the bad guy, the nag, the problem. Now I knew why. He was turning me into the villain in their story. And I was letting it happen. That day, I stopped trying to fix our marriage with polite dinners and maybe next weekend conversations. I booked a therapy appointment for me. I started journaling everything. Watching how he spoke to them, how he undermined me, how he made jokes about me like I wasn't a person. Just a burden. A mood. A punching bag with a grocery list. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. And I got it. When I finally sat the kids down and said, have I seemed angry lately? They were hesitant. Quiet. Unsure how honest they were allowed to be. So I told them the truth. That I was tired. Lonely. That I loved them deeply and that families need all voices to be heard, not just the loudest one. They cried. I cried. Eventually we left. My husband didn't even fight it. Maybe he thought he'd won them over. But kids know when love is real. And now when they talk about home, they say it feels lighter here. And I finally feel seen. My teen said, we only pretend to be a family, right? And no one laughed. It was a Sunday. The kind of day that drags. Everyone was home, but no one was together. My husband was in the den watching football. I was in the kitchen, trying to figure out what to make with a nearly empty fridge. Our daughter, 16, sat at the table on her phone, earbuds in, pretending not to be part of this household. I asked her to help me with the grocery list. She looked up with that classic teenage smirk and said, why bother? We only pretend to be a family, right? She laughed when she said it. But no one else did. My husband didn't look up from the TV. I froze with a half-written list in my hand. And for a second, I felt like someone had turned the lights on in a room I'd been sitting in for years, only now I could see the dust, the cracks, the peeling corners. She went back to scrolling like it was nothing. Just a quip. A snarky teen moment. But I couldn't let it go. Later that night, I brought it up. Hey, about what you said earlier. She rolled her eyes. It was a joke. I said, was it? She shrugged. It just feels fake sometimes. Like, we all live here, but we don't actually talk or do anything together unless it's forced. I wanted to argue. I wanted to list every birthday party, every holiday dinner, every time we took her to the dentist. But I didn't. Because she was right. We'd become roommates. Background actors in each other's lives. We passed in the hallway. Ate in silence. Sat in different rooms with different screens. The love was still there somewhere, but it had no air. No movement. No voice. And she saw it. Kids always do. I asked my husband that night, when was the last time we sat down as a family without distractions? He couldn't answer. Neither could I. So I started making small changes. Sunday dinners, mandatory, no phones. A monthly family outing, even if it was just a walk or board games or backyard fire it. Family therapy. A group chat where we had to send one positive thing about our week. Silly stuff, but real. The first few weeks were stiff. Forced. Eye rolls and sarcasm. But then, one Sunday she made dessert. Another time, my husband planned the movie night without me reminding him. And one night, as we were cleaning up dishes, she said, "Okay, maybe we're, like, a little bit of a family." She smiled when she said it. And this time, we all laughed. Because here's the thing, families don't always break in big, explosive moments. Sometimes they just fade. But a fading connection can still be rewired. You just have to notice the silence when the laughter disappears. And care enough to bring it back. The therapist asked, "What do you love about each other?" And no one could answer. We were sitting in the beige office, surrounded by throw pillows and potted plants that were trying too hard to be calming. Family therapy. Our last resort. My husband sat to my right, arms crossed. Our daughter, 15, was across from us, curled up like she wanted to disappear into her hoodie. Our son, 11, was fidgeting with a pin cap and avoiding eye contact. I had been the one to push for this. I thought we needed a safe space. A referee. Someone to fix the tension that hung in our house like damp laundry, heavy, ever-present, and slowly molding everything. We'd just finished going over a disagreement about chores that had spiraled into yelling the previous week, when the therapist leaned forward, her voice soft. She said, "Let's pause. Can I ask something simple?" We nodded. "I'd like each of you to go around and answer one question. What do you love about each other?" Silence. It wasn't dramatic. No one gasped. No one stormed out. Just nothing. My son stopped fidgeting. My daughter looked down. My husband blinked like he hadn't heard right. I felt my throat tighten. The therapist smiled gently. "Take your time." And we did. Too much time. My daughter finally mumbled, "I don't know." My son echoed it. "Me neither." I looked at my husband. He said, I guess, we're family, right? That's love." She wrote something in her notebook. Then she looked at me. And I realized I didn't know either. I didn't know what I loved about my husband anymore, not who he used to be, but who he was now. I didn't know what I loved about my daughter because I didn't really know her anymore. My son, sweet, quiet, anxious, I knew he was kind, but what did I love about him? Or more accurately, what had I taken the time to notice? I tried to speak. Nothing came out. And that's when it hit me. Our family wasn't angry. We weren't hostile. We were disconnected. Our house ran on logistics, not love. Who's picking up groceries? Who's driving to soccer? Did you sign the permission slip? But we didn't see each other. Not really. After the session, the therapist pulled me aside and said, "Disconnection is like emotional dust. You don't notice it until you try to touch something and realize it's covered." That stuck with me. So we started small. I wrote each kid a letter and left it on their pillow, things I noticed, things I appreciated, things I loved. They didn't respond right away. But a few weeks later, my daughter left me a note on the fridge. "Thanks for seeing me. I love your weird jokes." It made me cry. And last night at dinner, my son said, "I like when we do things together. Like this." No one hesitated. We said we love that too. And this time every word was real. He said he was staying late at work, so why was our daughter in his car? It was a Wednesday. I remember because it was one of those dull, gray midweek afternoons where everything just feels like static. He texted me at 4:17 p.m. "Running late. Caught in meetings. Don't wait for me for dinner." Totally normal. He was a project manager. Staying late wasn't unusual. Except I had forgotten that my mom, who usually picked up our daughter from school on Wednesdays, had a doctor's appointment. So at 4:30, I rushed out to get her. I didn't even call. Just hopped in the car, drove straight to the school, still in my work clothes, hair pulled back, mentally apologizing to the PTA volunteer I had promised to email that morning. That's when I saw it. My husband's car. Parked along the curb. I blinked. Thought I must be mistaken. But it was his. Same dent near the taillight. Same faded parking sticker from his college that he refused to peel off. And in the passenger seat? Our daughter. She looked relaxed. Like this was normal. He handed her something, a drink from the gas station. She smiled. I didn't pull up beside them. I parked across the lot and watched. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be at work. When I got home later, I said nothing. Neither did he. That night, I asked our daughter, "Did Dad pick you up today?" She nodded casually. "Yeah. He's been picking me up a lot lately. He said Grandma needs rest." I stared at her. Has he said not to tell me? She hesitated. That 2-second pause told me everything. He had been lying. Not just to me but to her. Using their father-daughter time as a cover while gaslighting me into thinking he was working late, exhausted, just trying to provide. I confronted him the next night. He denied it at first. Said I must have misread the situation. Then when I pressed, he flipped it. "You're overreacting. I'm spending time with my daughter. Isn't that what you've always wanted?" I said, "Not if it requires lying to me to do it." Eventually the truth came out. He hadn't been working late. He wasn't cheating, at least not in the physical sense. But he had been using that time to escape. Sometimes he picked her up and dropped her at home, then went to the park, the gym, the bar, anywhere but home. He told our daughter not to say anything, so Mom doesn't get upset. He made me the bad guy in her eyes, just so he could breathe. That was the real betrayal. Not the time. Not the lies. The wedge. The quiet, cowardly wedge he drove between me and my child so he wouldn't have to confront the truth about our failing marriage. We're separated now. She's in therapy. So am I. We take walks together. Talk more. And sometimes when she gets in my car after school, she says, "I'm glad you came today." I say, "Me too." And I mean it. We looked perfect on social media. But no one slept in the same room anymore. My Instagram page was beautiful. Golden hour family photos, color-coordinated outfits, matching mugs labeled Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Cub. Hashtags like #blessed and #family goals under every post. I even ran a parenting blog with meal prep hacks and toddler tantrum tips. We got compliments all the time. "You two are such a power couple. Your kids are always smiling. You're living the dream." But what they didn't see, we hadn't shared a bed in almost a year. It started with him snoring, then his late work hours, then me needing space while dealing with the kids. Eventually, we just stopped trying. He moved to the guest room. Said it was temporary. We both knew it wasn't. The kids noticed, of course. Our daughter asked once, "Why doesn't Daddy sleep in your room?" I said, "He works late and doesn't want to wake me." It was a lie we both agreed on without speaking. Our son, younger, didn't even remember a time when we shared a bed. But the camera? Oh, the camera was kind. We posed for holiday cards like nothing was wrong. I scheduled fall photo shoots. Smiled big at pumpkin patches. Cropped out the emotional rot from every frame. Until one night, I caught my daughter practicing her Instagram smile in the mirror. I asked what she was doing. She said, "I just want to make sure I look happy for when you post." That was the punch in the chest I didn't see coming. She wasn't thinking about actual joy, just the performance of it. Because that's what I taught her. That looking happy mattered more than being happy. Later that night, I opened my Instagram and scrolled back, post after post of perfection. Curated moments. Empty captions stuffed with hearts and exclamation points. And behind every one of them? A lonely dinner. A silent car ride. A slammed door. My family wasn't a memory feed. It was a group of disconnected people sleeping behind different walls and pretending to be whole once the camera shutter clicked. That week, I took a break from social media. Canceled a sponsored post. Declined a brand partnership that wanted us in matching pajamas. Instead, I asked my husband to sit down with me. We didn't fight. We just told the truth. We were tired. Distant. Not angry, just gone. We agreed to therapy. For us. For the kids. For whatever future we could salvage, separately or together. We're still figuring it out. But I haven't posted on Instagram in over 4 months. My daughter stopped asking which outfit is Insta-cute. And last week, we all watched a movie on the same couch, no filters, no selfies, just popcorn and laughter. And for the first time in a long time, we were real. I realized my kids only talked to me when I was yelling. It hit me on a Tuesday. I was standing in the hallway yelling up the stairs for the 3rd time. "Shoes! On! Now! We're late!" My daughter didn't budge. My son mumbled something through the door. I snapped. I marched up, knocked loudly, raised my voice again, and suddenly, things got moving. Feet shuffled. Doors opened. Backpacks were slung on shoulders. Just like always. And in that moment, in the echo of my own frustration, I realized something awful. My kids only listened when I was yelling. Worse, they only spoke back when I was yelling. All the other times? My voice might as well have been wallpaper. If I asked how school was, I got a shrug. If I sat next to them, they'd scoot away, eyes fixed on screens. If I said, I love you, it floated into the air and disappeared. But when I raised my voice, they responded. They looked at me. They engaged, even if it was in frustration or fear or fatigue. And I hated it. Not just because of them, but because of me. When did I become the mom who barked commands like a drill sergeant? When did I stop being someone they wanted to talk to and become someone they only heard when her voice cracked from volume? That night, after they went to bed, I sat in the kitchen and cried. I wasn't angry. I was exhausted, ashamed, lonely. I wasn't the mom I thought I'd be. And I wasn't raising the kind of emotional connection I wanted my kids to carry into adulthood. So the next morning, I did something new. I whispered. I knocked on their doors gently and said, "Good morning." No demands. No countdown. Just calm. They were confused. A little late. But they heard me. And that night, I tried again. I asked my daughter how her day was, but this time I listened when she said, "Fine." I didn't push. I just said, "Okay. I'm here if you want to talk." It took time. Weeks, actually. But slowly it shifted. My son started sitting next to me on the couch again. Not for long, but it was something. My daughter started responding in full sentences. One night, I found her drawing at the kitchen table instead of behind a locked door. We talk more now. And I don't have to yell. We still have rough mornings. I still raise my voice sometimes. But now when I do, they notice, not because it's the norm, but because it's rare. And when I whisper, "I love you," at night, they whisper it back. Because the loudest thing in a home shouldn't be frustration. It should be connection. Reddit woman, how did you realize that your family was falling apart?